The studio lights of Philippines Got Talent glimmered across the massive stage as the next contestant was called. The audience, still buzzing from the previous performance, quieted down in anticipation. Backstage, a young man in his mid-20s stood near the entrance, taking one last steadying breath. He wore a simple button-down shirt and dark jeans, not flashy, not styled for attention. Everything about him suggested he was here for the music, not the spotlight. As he stepped onto the stage, the crowd offered polite applause. The judges, including a special international guest, Simon Cowell, shifted in their seats, assessing him with curiosity. He didn't stride with confidence or crack a nervous joke. Instead, he paused at the center mark, eyes scanning the auditorium as though absorbing the weight of the moment. Judge Sarah asked gently, "Can you tell us your name?" He responded with just his first name, Gabriel. There was no backstory offered, no family mention, no dramatic lead-in. His voice was calm, soft, almost distant, but there was a hint of something deeper beneath his quiet demeanor, something practiced, maybe something carried for years. Simon raised an eyebrow, intrigued by the contestant's reserve. Most performers took the opportunity to impress the judges with charm or personality, but Gabriel gave nothing away. The camera zoomed in, capturing his composed expression and the slight tension in his hands as he held the microphone. One of the judges followed up, "Is this your first time performing on a big stage?" Gabriel gave a small nod but didn't elaborate. The audience exchanged looks, some leaned forward, curious. There was a sense of mystery surrounding him, a presence that didn't rely on showmanship but still commanded attention. When the backing track technician signaled readiness, Gabriel took one final breath. The room stilled. Something about the silence suggested that whatever came next might change everything. The first gentle notes of the instrumental filled the auditorium, and instantly, a hush fell over the crowd. It was a classic Filipino ballad, one that generations knew by heart, a song closely tied to Freddie Aguilar's legacy. The choice alone stirred a ripple of curiosity among the judges and audience. Performing such an iconic piece was bold, even risky, especially for someone who had given so little away about himself. Gabriel closed his eyes as he lifted the microphone. When he began to sing, the effect was immediate. His voice wasn't loud or forced, it carried a natural depth, rich with emotion. The phrasing, the tone, even the delicate vibrato, there was something uncannily familiar about it. Conversations in the audience cut off mid-whisper. Heads turned. Eyes widened. A few spectators instinctively leaned toward the stage, as though trying to confirm what their ears were telling them. Judge Sarah exchanged looks with her fellow judges. "That voice," she murmured under her breath. Simon Cowell, who had been relaxed in his chair, sat up straighter. His expression sharpened, professionally intrigued but personally unsettled, as if he were witnessing something he hadn't quite prepared for. As the chorus approached, Gabriel's delivery intensified, not with theatrics, but with authenticity. He wasn't performing to impress. He was singing as though the song belonged to him, as though every word had lived in his blood long before this moment. The audience reacted in waves, first stunned silence, then soft gasps, then scattered applause that quickly died down as people didn't want to interrupt. By the second verse, a buzz moved through the crowd. People whispered to each other, some pointing subtly, others recording on their phones. More than admiration, there was a sense of recognition, like hearing an echo of the past brought to life in the present. On stage, Gabriel remained still, eyes closed, the spotlight catching a faint tremor of emotion in his voice. Whatever mystery surrounded him, it was now wrapped in something even more powerful, familiarity that felt impossible to explain. As Gabriel continued singing, the energy in the studio shifted from curiosity to awe. The judges, once composed and observant, began reacting in subtle but unmistakable ways. Judge Randy leaned forward with his elbows on the table, eyes narrowed with interest. Sarah had her hand over her heart, visibly moved. But it was Simon whose expression told the real story. At first, Simon watched with the usual detached scrutiny, the way he did with countless contestants over the years. But something in Gabriel's tone, the timbre, the phrasing, the raw sincerity, pulled him in. Halfway through the performance, his usual measured demeanor gave way to disbelief. He blinked slowly, as if recalibrating what he was hearing. By the time Gabriel reached the second chorus, Simon was no longer leaning back in his chair. He was forward, elbows on the desk, eyes locked onto the singer as though trying to solve a puzzle. There was intensity in his gaze, not just appreciation but recognition, like someone hearing a familiar voice in a completely unexpected context. He glanced briefly at the other judges, searching their faces to confirm he wasn't imagining it. Sarah gave him a subtle nod, her expression saying what words couldn't, "Do you hear it too?" Simon's lips parted slightly, not in criticism, but in surprise. He tilted his head, studying the young man more closely, taking in his features, his tone, his posture. This was no ordinary audition. His instincts, sharpened by decades of discovering talent, were telling him that something extraordinary, and deeply unusual, was unfolding. As Gabriel neared the end of the song, the final note carried a weight that resonated through the room. The audience held their breath, hanging on the sound as it faded into silence. Simon didn't look away once. When the last note ended and applause erupted like a wave, Simon remained motionless for a moment, stunned into stillness. It wasn't just the performance that astonished him, it was the eerie feeling that this voice carried a story the world had never heard, but one he somehow recognized. As the final note faded and the applause thundered through the studio, Gabriel slowly lowered the microphone. The audience rose to their feet in a standing ovation, some cheering, others still stunned into silence. The judges joined in, clapping with a mixture of awe and disbelief. When the crowd finally quieted, Judge Randy was the first to speak. "Gabriel, that was more than a performance. That felt personal. Who taught you to sing like that?" Gabriel hesitated. He glanced down at the microphone in his hands, his fingers tightening just a bit. The cameras moved in closer. The room sensed that something important was about to surface. Judge Sarah leaned in gently. "You don't have to share if you're not ready, but everyone here felt something powerful. There's a story behind that voice, isn't there?" Gabriel inhaled slowly, then looked up. His voice, though soft, carried through the room with clarity. "I've waited a long time to be here, not just to sing, but to stop hiding who I am." The audience stilled. Simon, who had been silently studying him, leaned even closer. Gabriel continued, choosing his words carefully. "My father is someone many of you know. Someone whose songs shaped generations, but I didn't grow up with his name. I grew up with his music." A wave of whispers rippled across the seats. The judges exchanged glances, some leaning back in shock, others frozen in anticipation. Gabriel swallowed and said the words that shattered the room's composure. "I'm the son of Freddie Aguilar." Gasps erupted instantly. Some audience members covered their mouths. Others turned to one another in disbelief. Even the camera operators shifted, trying to capture every reaction. Simon's eyes widened, his earlier suspicions suddenly justified. For a long moment, no one spoke. The silence wasn't empty, it was electric, heavy with realization and awe. The revelation didn't just explain the voice. It redefined everything they had just witnessed. The moment Gabriel uttered the words, "I'm the son of Freddie Aguilar," the studio seemed to freeze before bursting into chaotic awe. The judges sat stunned, the audience caught between disbelief and exhilaration. But the shock inside the auditorium was nothing compared to what would unfold beyond its walls. Even before the show cut to commercial, several audience members had already recorded and uploaded clips of the performance and revealed to social media. Within minutes, hashtags like #FreddieAguilarSon, #GabrielPGT, and #SimonShocked spread across multiple platforms. By the time the episode ended, the audition footage had gone viral across the Philippines and began gaining traction internationally. Online forums and music communities lit up with comparisons. Viewers placed Gabriel's vocals beside old recordings of Freddie Aguilar, amazed at the uncanny resemblance. Some fans insisted the similarity was genetics in sound form, while others debated whether he might surpass his father artistically. Nostalgic listeners shared stories of growing up with Freddie's music, now astonished to see that legacy unexpectedly resurfacing. News outlets quickly picked up the story. Morning shows replayed clips of the performance, while entertainment networks scheduled interviews and panel discussions. Headlines appeared across digital platforms. Hidden Aguilar heir takes over PGT stage. Simon Cowell left speechless by Freddie Aguilar's son. A legacy reborn in one unforgettable audition. Simon himself, when contacted by the press, called the performance one of the most unexpected and emotionally charged auditions I've ever witnessed. His reaction clip, eyes wide, leaning forward, became a meme and was shared millions of times. Freddie Aguilar's name re-entered global trending lists as fans speculated about his response. Some wondered if the two had a relationship, others questioned why Gabriel had remained unknown for so long. By the next day, talent agents, journalists, and music producers were contacting the show, eager to know what came next for Gabriel. What began as a quiet, mysterious audition had erupted into a worldwide cultural moment, one that reconnected the past with the present in a way no one saw coming.